Yeah. This. So we completed 8th chapter and we started the 9th one, which is called as 9th chapter. Ray optics and optical instruments, correct? Right. So we will try to recollect everything. We'll again discuss certain basics for today's class. Then we'll go to the derivations. So those who know, please answer so that the class is interactive. Uh, First, what is optics? So basically, what does optics mean? So branch of physics where we mainly study about light. Right? Then what is ray optics all about? It is not a property. It can be treated. Okay. But in the case of other part, you can consider it as a wave. But okay. But important question, how will you know that whether you're supposed to treat light in this context, light in a particular context as a ray or as a wave? First of all, when you say ray is a straight line. Right? But in electromagnetic waves chapter, we understood that light. So here, what is the light we are trying to talk about? So the light we are trying to talk about is visible. So visible light has a certain range of wavelength associated with it. It is between 400 nanometer to 700 nanometer. Correct? That is what this light is. What we are trying to talk about. So when you say light is a wave, then how can you treat it like a straight line? If that is the case, there should be some context I should know in which I am supposed to use this particular topic as a ray. I need to deal it as a ray. Where do you deal it? Waves can also go in a straight line. We'll go like this. How will I know if I need to use it as a ray or a wave? That is where an important property, the important observation that comes into picture. So generally, if you have to see an object, what is supposed to happen? Light should fall on that particular object and get reflected back to our eyes. Right? When that is happening, can I say light is interacting with certain objects? So if the light is interacting with those objects whose size is there, again I repeat, if light is interacting with those objects whose size is comparable to the wavelength of the light, then it is dealt under a branch called as ray optics or geometric optics. Did I say comparable? I'm sorry, I corrected again. If the light is able to interact, if the light is interacting with objects whose size is more compared to whose size is more compared to the wavelength of light, the size is more compared to the wavelength of light, the light is treated as a ray. On the other hand, if light is interacting with objects, right? If light is interacting with objects whose size is whose size is comparable to the wavelength of light, whose size is comparable to the wavelength of light, it is treated as a wave. Okay. So in this chapter, now you are able to understand why we treat it as a ray, because light is, so when we talk about the properties of light, it exhibits the property of reflection, refraction. Right? So reflection is exhibited by what kind of objects? Mirrors. Right? Mirrors exhibit the properties of reflection, and which elements exhibit the properties of refraction? Lens, prism, optical instruments such as microscopes, telescopes, all these materials exhibit the property of refraction. So you would understand this concept. So if you see in all these contexts, the mirrors or the lens or the prism, whatever you're talking about, have a finite size associated. They are not in terms of nanometers. That is why we can confidently apply the concept of geometric or ray optics. Okay. So when you look at certain phenomena, the phenomenon exhibited by light will be something like this: reflection, refraction, refraction, and that's a reflection and refraction. So what about reflection? So reflection basically means bouncing back of light after it strikes a smooth and a shiny surface. Right. So which materials exhibit the property of reflection? They are mirrors. So when you talk about mirrors, mirrors are again basically classified into two types. One is plane mirror, and the second is called as the spherical mirrors. Right. So what happens in the case of a plane mirror? But before we understand that, we need to understand the concept of
uniformly on.
Sorry?
Like uniformly or
Virtual image.
fused reflection.
Not able to hear, your voice is breaking, but okay. So when I talk about something like this, the concept of laws of reflection. So what comes to your mind?
Incidence equal to angle of reflection.
Reflected ray and normal all. What do I mean by that? They lie in the same plane. Second, angle of incidence is equal to angle of reflection. Right? So having all these points in mind, I can say that if I take a mirror, then the incident ray, the reflected ray, and the normal all lie in the same plane. If I take this as the angle of incidence, angle of reflection, I is equal to. Am I clear with this? So having these points in mind, let's try to draw the ray diagram for plane mirror. So if I draw a ray diagram for a plane mirror, what will happen? Let's see. See, if I take an extended object AB, okay. So what are the minimum number of rays that are required for you to locate the position of an image? Minimum are 2. So if I take a ray parallel to the principal axis, it goes and strikes the, sorry, not principal axis. There is no principal axis for a plane mirror. If I take a line which is parallel to the horizontal line that I've already drawn, then what is going to be the angle of incidence? So here, this will be the normal. So angle of incidence is 0 degrees. So it will retrace its path. Similarly, if it goes and hits this surface, what will happen? It will symmetrically reflect back because of the same phenomenon. This is the angle of incidence, this is the angle of reflection. Right? When you extend them backwise, it is understood both these reflected rays are never going to meet. Sorry? Any doubt? It is understood that both these reflected rays are never going to meet, and the image is formed somewhere over here, which I call it as A dash B dash, and this is what is going to be the virtual image. And virtual images are always correct. Am I clear with this? Similarly, when you talk about the other types of mirrors, what mirrors can you talk about? You can talk about spherical mirrors. So in spherical mirrors, what are the two classifications? So they have concave and convex. So what about a concave mirror? So if you take a spoon for that example, a spoon generally the side which we eat is called as the depressed side. On the other side is this bulge. Okay. So if you silver the bulge part and the reflection is happening on the depressed part, then what kind of a mirror is that? Concave mirror. So if I have something like this is a concave mirror. If I have something like this, it is a convex. Okay. So what are the parts that are associated with the mirror? So if I take a mirror, what are all the terminologies that are associated with it? First, I need to know what is a pole. Second, I need to know what is the center of curvature. Third, I need to know what is the principal axis. Fourth, I need to know the radius of curvature. Fifth, I need to know what is the focal focus. And the sixth one, focal length. Seventh one, aperture. Eighth one, paraxial and marginal rays. So these are all the terms that we need to know. Right? So first, with respect to a spherical surface or a spherical mirror, what does a pole mean? Pole is the center of the spherical surface. So if I take the center of the spherical surface, this is the curvature. This has a length, and to that length, if I take exactly the midpoint, we call it as pole. Right? Then what is the center of curvature? Center of curvature is the point on the mirror. Sorry, not center of curvature is the center of the sphere from this mirror is direct. Okay, then what about the principal axis? It is imaginary line that is passing through the center of curvature and the pole. And what about the principal axis? Radius of curvature? The distance between the pole and the center of curvature. What about focus? So this is a very important point, right? So if you take a ray parallel to the principal axis, then that ray after reflection will pass or will tend to pass through a point on the principal axis which is called as focus. Okay. So how is it happening? How are we able to draw the ray diagram? That is what we need to understand. So when there is a ray which is taken parallel to the principal axis at the point of incidence, what is the first step that we need to do? You need to draw a normal. That normal will pass through center of curvature. Right? The normal will pass through the center of curvature. Then this will be the angle of incidence. Now what about the angle of reflection? So you should make the same angle and draw the reflected ray, where I will call this as the angle of reflection, so that they both are mathematically sync. If I take a ray parallel to the principal axis at the bottom, what will happen? The same logic again, at the point of instance, I will draw a normal, then I will draw a ray like this. They both meet at this particular point, which is called as the focus. Right? This is with respect to a concave mirror. What about a convex mirror? Yes. They tend to come from that point. So since you would have learned all these things, I'm not drawing it for convex. I hope everybody understood that what happens for a concave mirror. That is the reason why this concave mirror has another name also. It is also called as a converging mirror. Why? Because the reflected rays converge. Converge means they travel towards each other, and this kind of a phenomenon is exhibited. Now, what is focal length? Simple. Length is the distance. Focal length is the distance between the pole and the focus point. What about the aperture? So if I take the mirror like this, from here to here, if you are able to measure the distance, you take a tape and you measure something like this. Then the height of this pen is what is called as the aperture. Right. Then what are paraxial and marginal tips? What are paraxial and marginal tips? So paraxial means the rays which are very close to the principal axis. Please write it down. Paraxial means the rays which are very close to the principal axis. Marginal is the rays which are away from the principal axis. Just give me a minute. So paraxial and marginal rays, what do they mean? The rays which are closer to the principal axis is what we call paraxial, and the rays which are away from the principal axis, we call them as marginal rays. Okay, wow. So there are certain assumptions that we need to do in this chapter for the sake of derivations. Assumptions with respect to mirror. First, the rays you're considering should be paraxial. Okay, so the rays that you're considering are supposed to be paraxial. When you do this paraxial, what will happen is angles will be very small, such that sine of an angle is approximated to tan of the angle is approximated to the angle itself. Okay. Are you able to understand what I'm trying to say? Sine of the angle is approximated to tan of the angle is approximated to the angle itself. I'll explain what this means when I explain the derivation. Second, okay. Aperture of the mirror should be very small. So this is the second assumption. Why we do this is because when you consider the aperture to be small, then the spherical part can be approximated. The spherical part can be approximated to a straight line. Okay. You can approximate the spherical part to a straight line. So you would understand this? Now we'll see an application of it. Relation between, did I explain this? Relation between F and R. Explained it. Huh? Okay, we'll see it again. Relation between F and R. It will be a recollection for you guys. So listen, if I take a mirror like this, okay, and if I call this point as P and this point as the center of curvature, if I take a ray parallel to the principal axis, after reflection, what will happen to it? Okay, pass through the focus, right? So we need to draw a normal here. Now, if I take this angle as theta, this angle will also be theta. Is the color visible? Then, how much will this angle be? That will be 2 theta. Yeah. Because one line is parallel, other line is parallel. That normal, not normal, this line which is passing through focus is acting like a transversal. So this angle is 2 theta, this will be 2 theta because they are alternate interior angles. Okay, well, so this will be 2 theta. When that is 2 theta, then how much is this angle? So this will be 180 minus 2 theta. Right, if this is 180 minus 2 theta, then how much is this angle? Is the angle, if I call this point as A, angle ACF. Actually, we need not do this much. That will also be theta. First, there again alternate interior angles. Sharia. Now, if that is the case, what are the two important assumptions I told you? One is the ray that you have considered should be paraxial. See, paraxial and parallel don't get confused. Paraxial means if the ray is closer to the principal axis, we call it as paraxial. So here, the ray which is taken parallel to the surface is the paraxial ray. Due to which, what is going to happen? Angles will be small. So if the angles are small, wherever you find sine of an angle or tan of an angle, they can be written as the angle itself, provided they are in terms of radians. Okay, that is one important point. Secondly, what did I say? The aperture is very small, so that you can consider the curvature to be straight. So here, what do I mean by that? How do I apply it? Means I'm trying to say that the curvature AP you are able to see, right? The curvature AP is approximated to straight line. Means it can be something like this perpendicular. There is reason for it why we are doing that, because as I told you, the name of the chapter is geometric optics. So you can apply geometry as well as trigonometry. So for you to apply trigonometry, what you need? That is the reason why we are doing that approximation. Okay. Now see. If I take the triangle ABCD, if I take this as theta, then what is the distance between P and C? Radius of curvature. So what is tan theta, guys? It is AP divided by minus R. Why did they write minus R? Because they applied sign convention. So with respect to point P, it is on the left hand side. So it is minus R, which can be approximated to theta itself. Similarly, tan 2 theta, where do I get it from? A, P and F, if I take this as F, this is 2 theta. So tan 2 theta is equal to AP divided by minus F. So this is approximated to 2 theta. So theta is equal to AP by minus R. So from this, can I say AP divided by minus F is equal to 2 into, in the place of theta, can I write it as AP divided by minus R? AP will get cancelled, F will be equal to, sorry, from which I can say R will be equal to 2H. Is that clear, guys? Right. The next important point is the rules to draw ray diagrams. So what are the rules to draw the ray diagrams first? There are 4 rules. One is, or I can say there are steps also. Ray considered parallel to principal axis, what will happen? Ray considered parallel to the principal axis. Where is the image formed? Formed at focus. See, generally when I say ray considered parallel to the principal axis, where is the object placed? At infinity. Okay, well, so ray considered parallel to the principal axis is the same as the object being placed at infinity. Okay. If I take the ray parallel to this, then after reflection, if you pass through a point on the principal axis called as focus, this is the location where the image is formed. Second, ray through the focus, what will happen? So if I consider a ray through the focus, where is the image formed? Image is formed at infinity. Right? It is a reverse, no? When the object is placed at infinity, image is formed at focus. When the ray is passing through the focus, image is formed at infinity. Something like this. Correct? Third, what is going to happen? Ray through center of curvature. What will happen to it? It will retrace its path. Why? Very good. Because in this case, the angle of incidence is equal to the angle of reflection. By the way, those who are on the other side, are you able to understand?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So the ray is considered through the center of curvature. It will travel without any deviation. Because what is the angle of incidence in this case?
0 degree.
Very good. So angle of incidence is 0 degrees. So angle of reflection will also be 0.
0.
What about the fourth point? Ray incident at the pole. What will happen? It will bend symmetrically with respect to the principal axis. Correct? All these things are applicable even to convex. Next. So based on this, let us try to derive the mirror formula. So if I take this to be the pole, this to be the center of curvature, okay, I'm placing the object beyond the center of curvature, between C and infinity. So one of the rays I will take parallel to the principal axis. After reflection, it will pass through focus. Okay. The other ray I will consider through the center of curvature, so it will retrace its path. So where is the image formed? Between C and F. So between C and F, I am able to find the image, which is, if I call this as A and B, this would be A dash, B dash. Are you able to understand this? Yeah? So it is a real and an inverted image. Correct? Now, my job is to derive this mirror formula. What is the mirror formula? 1 by V plus 1 by U is equal to 1 by F. Okay. So one important rule that you need to have in your mind is, in this chapter, for every derivation, you need to use sign convention. So sign convention should be used for all the derivations, and sign convention should be used in problems also, in applying them in problems. Both are important. Okay. So the distance between point P and A is U. The distance between point P and B dash is V. The distance between point P and F is small f. Okay. Now, see, this is there. And if I take another ray like this, it will also pass through the same point. Right. So the logic is whenever you are solving these kind of, you're deriving these kind of equations, right? You need to look for similar triangles. So what are the sets of similar triangles that you're able to find here? So I am able to see C, B, A, B dash, A dash, C. Because this angle is theta, this angle is also theta, this is 90 degrees, the other is also 90 degrees. According to A criteria, they both are similar. So which two triangles are similar? Triangle BAC is similar to triangle B dash A dash C. Correct? If that is the case, then can I write AB divided by A dash B dash is equal to AC divided by A dash C. Correct? Let me call this as equation number 1. Similarly, what are the other two triangles you are able to find? You can find the triangle and try BAP and B dash A dash B. Why? Again, A criteria theta, theta 90, 90. So triangle BAP is similar to triangle B dash A dash B. So AB divided by A dash B dash is equal to AP divided by A dash B. Correct? So this is 2. So AC divided by A dash C is equal to AP divided by A dash B. So what is AC? AC is minus of U minus R divided by what is A dash C? A dash C is minus of R minus V is equal to what is AP, guys? AP is minus U and A dash V is minus V. Cancel, cancel, cancel. So when you cross multiply, UV minus VR is equal to UR minus UV. This one to this side and this one to the other side. 2 times UV is equal to UR plus VR divided with UVR on both sides. What will you get? UV will get cancelled. 2 divided by R is equal to 1 by V plus 1 by U. But what is 2 by R? 1 by V plus 1 by U is going to give you 1 divided by done. So next is magnification. So what does magnification mean, guys? So when you talk about magnification, you can think of different kinds of magnification. One is linear, one is area. Okay, one is called as angular magnification. Okay, so here the magnification that we are trying to talk about is called as linear magnification. So any idea of what is the definition? It is defined as ratio of height of image to the height of object. So height of image divided by height of object. Okay. But what is height of image? It is a dash b dash divided by ab. Now let us look at this equation. If I take equation 2, I have ab by a dash b dash is equal to ap by a dash b. So if I write it in the reverse, a dash b dash divided by ab is equal to a dash b divided by ab. Right? What is a dash b? So which implies, what is a dash b dash? It is minus hi divided by ab is h naught is equal to, what is a dash b? Minus v divided by minus v. Check your diagram, will get cancelled. Minus minus will get cancelled. So hi divided by h naught will be equal to minus v divided by u. But what is hi by h naught? It is magnification. So magnification is equal to minus v divided by right. What I remember, I think we have discussed all these things. So it's a good revision for you guys. So it is minus v divided by u. There is a magnification. Okay. So when you are using this in the problems also, you need to ensure that you have the minus sign of the formula, after which you need to apply the sign convention as well. Okay. So this is all about reflection. The next concept is refraction. So what we can do is, what is time? 8:40. I'm little tired today because first day I had 4 hours of class continuously. So I'll continue with refraction in tomorrow's class. Okay. Is it okay, guys? There's no whatever to discuss. But it is important because you saw right how the papers you would have realized in term 1 what happened in math paper. Properties of determinant they related, but they asked. It's better we know everything. Fortunately, physics paper was easy. How did you do? Okay. Well, only. You? Math was easy. I'm hearing this for the first time. I saw math paper, I solved it also. So that's it, guys. I think they're sleeping on the other side. Hey. Okay. So that's it for today. I'll see you all tomorrow. Okay, revise these topics. And 1 minute. What you need to do is go through the previous class video before you come for tomorrow's class. Because refraction, I can't go in depth like this. I'll discuss certain points and then we can go to the continuation point. Okay, because we can save time, revise the previous class video and then come. Is that clear, guys?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay. So that's it. We can wind up.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.